Hi everyone, welcome back to my Spiritual Balance YouTube channel. Happy All Years. I'm recording this video on New Year's Eve of 2021 and this is a quick video for New Year's Eve and for New Year's Day to just discuss the astrology and the best way to utilize the astrology to have a happy and hopefully prosperous experience over the next 2 days. So today we have the moon in Sagittarius. The moon went into Sagittarius yesterday, and it will continue through Sagittarius until early in the morning on January 1st. So, this Sagittarius moon, it did already meet up with the south node of the moon. So that was yesterday. So that was like a big final releasing, and I don't know, yesterday was just kind of a strange day for me, but that's part of it. It's part of like the releasing of the past year, of the past year's energy, and really of the past year and a half, because the nodes of fate are wrapping up in Sagittarius and Gemini. So they're going to be moving into Taurus and Scorpio in January. So the moon in Sagittarius, now that it's done its final release and has let go with the south node, now we move forward, and the moon in Sagittarius is super optimistic and hopeful and joyous and funny and fun, wants to have a good time. The moon in Sagittarius loves to dance and play and just be youthful. And Sagittarius is a visionary sign. It's like looking into the future. In Sagittarius, you usually see the archer's arrow, and that's the idea. It's like we're like looking into the future and we're aiming for what we want. And this is a great time to look into that. Not so much to take action, to charge ahead right now, just because some of the personal planets, well, Venus is the only personal planet going retrograde right now, but Mercury is in its shadow period. So this is really a New Year energy of, yeah, we're getting ready to look forward and move forward, but we're still like being sort of restrained or held back. And another layer of that energy right now is that the moon is waning. So the moon is decreasing in light, it's emptying out. So this New Year's is more of a, like, we're still, even though we're moving into something new, we're still emptying out. And, it's interesting because personally, I love any opportunity to start over, to start fresh, to begin again, even just like, sunrise, like I get really excited about the new day being born, and sunsets. I celebrate the releasing the energies of the day. So any opportunity to start over or to release something, for me, I do celebrate. And spiritually, or whatever, New Year's is just a very physical world. The Gregorian calendar really has no significance over other timing systems from the past. So technically, the New Year's energy doesn't really come in until the spring equinox. So right now we're just having a New Year's for our 3D system, for our physical world, which is great. It's a wonderful time to start over again, in this area. And personally, I'll really be looking forward to the new moon that we have in Capricorn on Sunday. And then also looking forward to the Lunar New Year, which is Chinese New Year, in February, because again, it's another opportunity for a new beginning. So back to today. So today, yeah, the moon's in Sagittarius. The moon is making a few aspects to the other planets. There's no big astrology that's happening right now. There is the in the mix that Jupiter is now in Pisces. So Jupiter entered Pisces on December 28th. And this is a really big tone shift. So we had Jupiter in Pisces from May to July. So that was a little preview of what the Jupiter and Pisces energy is going to be about. And even the last time from May to July, I noticed that it took a few weeks for the Jupiter and Pisces energy to really take hold. And once it did, I really felt it. I did notice a tiny difference on the 28th when we had that re-entry into Pisces. But I am feeling like it's just taking a little bit of time for that Jupiter and Pisces to gain momentum. And Jupiter has been in Saturn-ruled signs of Capricorn and Aquarius for the past 2 years. And before that, Jupiter was in Sagittarius. So that's one of its home signs. Jupiter does rule Sagittarius, and Jupiter is the ancient ruler of Pisces before Neptune was discovered. So Jupiter was in its home sign and feeling really good in 2018, 2019, some of 2019. The end of 2019, Jupiter went into Capricorn. And then since then, we've had Jupiter in Saturn ruled signs. And Jupiter is the bringer of good luck and good fortune and abundance. And in Capricorn, it's just been really, or in Saturn ruled signs rather, just been really restricted. Its ability to bring the hope, the optimism, the good things has just been more restricted. It was a time of kind of karmic work, because Saturn is the planet of karma. And I really associate Saturn with like physical world karma, the results of your actions. And the more I've worked with Jupiter, I really feel that Jupiter is the planet of spiritual karma. And if you have, ever had a big Jupiter transit and have been course corrected or slapped on the wrist or anything, you know that Jupiter is a heavy hitter and a big player. So even though it's a planet of good things, oftentimes when Jupiter enters a new part of our charts or is crossing an important point in our charts, if we're not on our spiritual path, Jupiter can come in and really throw its weight around, and it's significant. I mean, I would even say sometimes because of Jupiter's expansive abilities, a difficult Jupiter transit can be right up there or worse than a Saturn transit, and that would depend on your personal chart. From in my chart, maybe it's just the way it hits me. I have a lot of Saturnian energy in my birth chart, so maybe Jupiter transits just feel a little more crazy to me. I would be interested on everybody's feedback about that, about how they experience the Jupiter energy. I've just seen Jupiter do its thing on the unhappy side. So anyway, Jupiter being back in its home in Pisces, in its ancient ruling home in Pisces, it just brings that like watery energy, intuition, feelings, all this like powerful energy. And so the moon in Sagittarius is kind of getting, because it just met the south node, so it just had this big release, and now it's feeling that Jupiterian energy. Jupiter's in its strength because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and that's where the moon is. Okay, just making that connection. So Jupiter and the moon are kind of having this like this sort of like exchange in energy. And this is a very different vibe for the Sag moons. So again, the last 2 years, the Sag moons have been ruled by Jupiter in Saturn ruled signs. So now we have the Sagittarius moon can like truly express itself and bring that excitement and that hope and that abundance, because the ruling planet is now free. Jupiter is now free in the sign of Pisces. So really enjoy and really look into the future. And I really have to encourage everyone that despite what the world looks like right now, despite what physical reality look and feels like right now, it is so important to cast those arrows in the direction that you desire. Because for many people over the past 2 years, they've gone within and they've kind of shut down, and that was we needed that. But at the same time, there were people who did the lockdown thing, did the stepping back thing, which we all had to. But we went in, and a lot of people did their work and still pushed in the outer world, and they're in a better place for it. So even through times of restraint and restriction, sometimes that's where a lot of the most powerful growth comes from. That is, that's where innovation comes from and resiliency comes from. So so really use this time to look into the future. If you're getting together, hopefully in small groups, because I guess COVID numbers are going crazy right now, so everyone should be safe. And that's a part of Jupiter and Pisces as well, is like, all right, like no more restrictions, but our immune system is part of that system of restrictions, so those boundaries are down now because Jupiter is like, let's share, and Pisces is the sign that rules over viruses and bacteria. So when Jupiter is in Pisces, those things can like grow and spread more easily. And that's unfortunately on the lower side. It's a reality that we have to deal with. On the higher side, hope and optimism spreads boundlessly. So just really working with balancing those scales. Don't forget your good health practices, and I think, the washing the hands thing to me just makes the most sense. Wash your hands and trying to touch your face and all of those things. Keep up with your vitamins, keep up with eating healthy raw foods, drink herbal teas and water. All of these things just like, it just helps us so much. And with Jupiter and Pisces, we're going to really want to stay well hydrated because that helps us to be in the flow of things. And anyway, back to the astrology. I always get like off on a tangent. That's me. That's just me. It'll never change. Sorry. I'm not sorry. Anyway, okay, so that's for New Year's Eve, the moon in Sagittarius. There's not a lot of aspects overnight, which is good. The only thing here is that Jupiter will meet Mars in Sagittarius at 4:01 p.m. local time. So that's Atlantic Standard Time. Adjust for your time zones. And when the moon in Sagittarius meets Mars in Sagittarius, it can just kind of be like emotional overload, an emotional eruption, saying too much, going too far. And Mars is the god of war. And in Sagittarius, it's like, yeah, like I'm gonna insult you, and then here we go. Like I want to fight, so I'm gonna say something or do something to be the aggressor, to push it forward. Now, this could even just be in your own mind, a war on the self, an emotional war within the self. So obviously, I discourage everyone to not move in that direction. And this could also show up as like, people deciding to have like last minute get-togethers, last minute parties, because Mars gives us that like that oomph, that energy, that drive to say like, let's just do it. So being that this is the last aspect until we get into like the next morning, into January 1st, 2022. This aspect of the moon in Sagittarius and Mars is like the last like strike of resonance of energy. So it reverberates through time. So overnight, this energy, this Mars in Sagittarius, moon in Sagittarius energy can just have a lot of people going overboard. And I'm seeing through like social media and just friends, a lot of people were planning to go all out this year, and I think that they still will, even though locally, the government's like pull back, close things down early. There's a lot of cases, a lot of spread, but I think people are not, they're not going to care. Like this is just the astrology on what's happening. Everyone's had the last 2 years of Jupiter in Aquarius and been, they were trying to be like smart and like restrict themselves, but it has been so long now that I think people are going to be like, let's just have a good time. So I think we'll see more, at home parties, more like beach parties, like quick little, little get-togethers. But I think it's going to be a wild night. I think that people are going to really want to celebrate and, do what's right for you. And I do understand that need, like we need to feel like life is good. We need to feel like life is still worth living. And that's really important. That has its place, as well as staying safe and, keeping other people safe as well. We are all responsible for ourselves, but also for each other. So yeah, just watch for the tendency to go overboard. That's kind of a signature of New Year's Eve, but I just like to feel good. So, going too far the next day usually does not feel good. And okay, so January 1st, Happy New Year, Happy 2022. And January 1st, we have the first aspect of the year that we have is the moon squaring Neptune. And that happens around 4:16 in the morning, Atlantic Standard Time. And this is just like pouring on more, more fun, more drugs, more alcohol, more, more good times, more sleep. Maybe for some people, Neptune also rules sleep. But this is like super Jupiterian energy. So again, like it looks like people will like, just go all out tonight and into tomorrow. And so the moon goes void with that first aspect to Neptune. So it's like, we realize like, okay, like we've been out all night, it's time to go to bed. And then the moon remains void for the rest of the day. The moon is void all day on January 1st. So it's kind of, it's kind of ironic because January 1st, like the start of a new year, new routines, we're going to push forward, on our goals, but the moon is void all day. So it's kind of like, we go too far, we go overboard the night before, or, whatever the case may be. And then the next day we're just lost. We're like floating between the worlds. And that's the energy of a void moon. Void moons want us to like rest, regroup, relax, working behind the scenes, staying a little more quiet. Void moons is when the moon is not making any connections to any other planets. So it's kind of like offline, it unplugs, it puts on the sunglasses and takes a nap. And yeah, so that's how we start the year. We start the year with like a sleepy nap energy. And especially because the moon goes void with the square to Neptune. Yeah, like obviously most things are closed, but starting New Year's resolutions on January 1st, you're just setting yourself up. It probably like you probably won't even take the first step. Like you may have an idea for resolutions and not even commit to them. Like, and it's not a good time. If you follow my horoscopes, I was talking like mid-December, and I was like, this is the time for making your New Year's resolutions, because New Year's, the actual New Year's, the calendar New Year this year just is not supported for these things. Now, if you want to hold off on your New Year's resolutions, like let the 31st of December and January 1st, let those days just be blank days. This is my suggestion. I mean, of course, like make dreams, and like explore how those dreams feel to you. When you think about these aspirations that you have, are you getting excited, or are you just like, yeah, I should do this, or, I'm going to do this, but there's no fire. There's no fire in your heart. If you don't have the fire for it, just keep thinking, keep waiting until you feel lit up about something, because this, especially after the last few years, let's move forward passionately. Let's move forward in our light. Let's move forward in our power. So also for New Year's Day, the moon is going, or I'm sorry, not the moon, the sun in Capricorn is going to trine Uranus in Taurus. And this is, again, like a really big deal. So the sun Uranus energy is awakening, and it can be rebellious, eruptive. The sun is like flowing its energy. So it can be like, leaders or bosses, like leaning into change, moving towards change. And because the moon is void, it may not last, but this is a day where people may feel like, I want to break free. We need to do something different. And it's interesting that we have this aspect on the first day of the new year, because last year was a very Uranian year in general, because we had the Saturn-Uranus square happening off and on all year. And we had the last one on December 24th. But next year, those two planets are still dancing with each other. They never come back into exact degree. They will be a degree off. And I think that's in like October. But that is significant. Like we're going to be like, if something is just 1 degree off, you are fully feeling it. We're all fully feeling it. It just isn't that exact, like you get elbowed like by it, but that energy of change and reconstruction and innovation and lifting the lid, thinking outside the box, critical thinking, changing the structure of how we're interacting with the world. This is going to be a year of like fast moving change. And like I said, we've already had that. And part of why the last few years have felt so like bad and hard is the other astrology, but also it was that Jupiter was in the Saturn rule signs. So while this year will be more of that like fast moving change, and I'm with you guys, like most people are like, what? Like, no. But with Jupiter being in Pisces now, it's that when the good things happen, it'll be really good. But when the crazy things are happening, Jupiter can also just add more crazy to it. It expands the crazy. So, it's a mixed bag in that way. And truly, like, sometimes people are like, the astrology is always bad. And it's like, well, the world is always hard. Like, of course, like we have those moments where we're like, oh, wow, this is a nice time. This is an easy time. But we know that there will be challenges mixed in the good stuff, or we know that there will be challenges that will contradict the good stuff. We just know that this is how it's going to be. So looking at the astrology in the same way, saying, okay, like the astrology isn't here to tell me that I'm going to be like good and happy, but the astrology is here for me to work with. I can time when I may need to have my barriers up, my guard up. I can navigate through, the astrology tells me when to act, when not to act. So if we're using it in that way, and we're not just looking at it as something to make us feel happy all the time, I think astrology is a tool, like you can use tools to create magnificent things, or you can use tools to, like, crush your finger with a hammer. Like, what do you want to do with your tools? So, that's how I like to work with the astrology. I'm like, okay, so what's hard? Let me find the best way to work with this hard energy. And then what's good? All right, so how can I empower the good? How can I feel even better when the energy is good? How can I utilize it to the best of my ability? And that's the innovation that I'm talking about, that we're going to need through next year. Like, it's, we have to, like, pull up our bootstraps and really and do the work, and keep our keep our happiness and our goals in mind, but not expect it to be a sleigh ride there, because that's just not how the world is, unfortunately. I had to come down off of my Care Bear unicorn cloud as well, and Saturn's really good at doing that. So okay, so the moon is going to enter Capricorn on January 1st, and it doesn't enter Capricorn until 7 o'clock at night. So this will be like a really, like, grounding energy. Everyone's like, oh no, like, we're through the holidays, and it can be kind of that melancholy, like, Christmas is over, New Year's is over, the holidays are over, we're back to work. And I get that people feel that way. I'm really not someone that ever feels that way. I'm like, great, it's Monday, start to a new week, or yeah, it's New Year's, or it's a new moon. Or it's a waning moon, it gets to, like, release, so it's what you do with it. Again, the Capricorn moon gets us, like, refocused. We're ready to get back to work, we're ready to, like, dig in and be responsible. And as the moon enters Capricorn, we begin to work our way towards the new moon in Capricorn that we're going to have on January 2nd. So this is a fantastic moon to plant your seeds. What do you want to grow? Make your New Year's resolutions. I always say that, doing new moon rituals or anything like that on the exact day of the new moon can be kind of challenging, because it's we still have, like, a dark moon for about 3 days after the point of the new moon. So I like to wait until I see the crescent in the sky, and then do my new moon rituals, because the moon is back. I can see its light, and it is clearly growing. And so I want the seeds I plant to clearly grow as well. So yeah, we have the new moon in Capricorn coming up. So this is a good time to, like, begin planning your New Year's resolutions. Like, after we've come through the craziness of the holidays and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, like, now that you're, like, getting serious again, now that we're focusing in again, what do you want to commit to? What do you want to see grow over this next year? And base your New Year's resolutions on those things. And if you put in the work with the Capricorn energy, what grows from it, or what comes from it, can last the test of time, but you have to put in the work. It's not something that's just going to, like, oh, a bird dropped a seed and now it's suddenly growing. How beautiful. It's not like that. Saturn's like, here's the pick, dig the hole, plant the seed, and if you don't water it, nothing will happen. Your efforts will be wasted. And tend to it, not just water it, like, tend to it, care for it, check in on it, commit to it. It's a growth process that you're going through with the seeds that you plant. So that's the Saturnian energy. That's just how it is. And that's what can, help the energy to be long lasting. And when we commit to something like that, we have a better potential for growth, because oftentimes, and that's a part of that thing with Jupiter, right? Like, we're like, oh, Jupiter's going to bring us good things. And a lot of times when this, like, abundance and good things fall in our laps, sometimes we choose not to act on it. But when we're challenged by something, and the universe is like, well, how badly do you want it? Because you can't have it until you really work for it. When you commit to doing that work, it's often so much sweeter than the thing that fell into your lap that you could be indifferent about, because you're not even sure if you wanted it in the first place. You didn't commit to the process of working for it, so you can take it for granted. So just little things to think about. I'm going to wrap up this video now. It probably is, like, way longer than it should have been, but that's me. So I want to wish everyone a very happy, healthy, love and laughter filled, friendship filled 2022. And just lots of growth, lots of, positive growth energy to everyone. And stay safe. And I love you all. And I'll see you next year. Bye.